Today we've got a crazy traumatizing story about a failed robbery attempt. We'll get into that in a bit, but first, the real estate agent asked me when I was due. I just remembered a story from a while back that fits. A few years ago, my ex, then boyfriend, and I were house hunting. A real estate agent went with us to check some options. She wasn't rude or anything, but she sure was nosy. Now, for context, I carry most of my weight on my hips and I'm overweight, but I barely have any belly and my waist is very thin. So when I'm using a skirt with several layers, it might look puffy around the hips, but not exactly pregnant puffy. We were looking for a house with 2 bedrooms because we were both working remote and needed an office space. We had a few options lined up for the day, so we had a few hours ahead with the real estate agent. While we were on the elevator heading to see the first apartment, she says, "So you must be eager to move soon, right?" "Clock is ticking," and giggled. I assumed what was coming but played dumb and asked why. She replied, "Well, when are you due? That extra bedroom will come in handy." And I noticed she was stroking my belly. I looked at her dead in the eye and said, "Oh, there's been some confusion. I'm just fat." She looked confused and tried to make up for her mistake with, "But you're trying to have a child, I guess, since you want an extra room," with a big smile, to which I replied, "The extra room is an office, actually. Sadly, we can't have kids." She looked at me in a panic, realizing she would have to spend the next few hours with us after this incident. It went as awkward as I could possibly make it, and she couldn't look at me straight for the entire time. Maybe asking people about their housing needs instead of guessing at random would have been better. The asking is bad enough, but why is it always the belly touching? I almost feel like going forward I have to avoid any kind of similar posts like this again, because it seems like it pops up all the time where people are more than happy to just lay their hands on a woman's belly. The gift of life is so nice, rub, rub, rub. It's just so gross just thinking about it. I Am Chubasaurus left a comment saying, "Why do so many people think it's okay to randomly touch the bellies of absolute strangers?" Mommerman replied, "I just groped them back when I was pregnant." Some lady in the Walmart ran up and grabbed my 8-month pregnant belly with both hands, so I put both of my hands on her breasts. She didn't appreciate that, but I thought it was hilarious and still do. No regrets. Stop touching strangers unless you're comfortable being touched back. And also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy crazy traumatizing revenge stories, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? Our next story is, "You're not deaf, you can speak perfectly." Oh, I've been waiting for this one. Back when Comic-Con was happening, Bill Nye was supposed to be at a panel I was going to. Now, I have several invisible disabilities, but the one I have to explain the most is the fact that I'm 70% deaf. I do wear hearing aids, but at conventions or concerts, I don't wear them. At this con, I have an ADA wristband along with my standard wristbands. This allows me to be in the front row to see interpreters and be able to read lips. Now, I can read ASL, American Sign Language, very well, however, I cannot sign it myself. This panel hall is huge, so I walk up all the way to the front where the sign for the ADA section is placed, and I move the sign 1 seat to the left so I can sit down. Normally this isn't an issue, but as the interpreters were swapping out, the new one comes over angrily and asks who moved her sign. I, of course, didn't hear her, but I was conversing to the person on my left about the panel, mainly reading their lips. This woman grabs my shoulder to get my attention and asks if I moved her sign. Apparently my yes wasn't enough because this lady told me, "This section is for people who are deaf and hard of hearing and you're not deaf." I looked at her confused and asked her what she means. She replied that I was talking too much to be deaf and wasn't using sign language. I'd had enough at this point because there's no way someone who is supposed to be helping me is accusing me of being deaf. So I pull out my phone and pull up a video. That video was filmed by a friend when I was struck by a faulty firework a few years prior. You can clearly see me and a few friends light the firework before 2 seconds later, it explodes and everyone screams as the video is cut off. I told the lady I can speak because I wasn't born deaf. I lost my hearing due to a fireworks accident. I'm sorry I don't look deaf enough for you. Not all of us can afford to learn sign language properly. That seemed to have her shut up as she left to go on stage and sit there until the panel started. I left after the panel concluded to go to a different panel with a different interpreter because I was ticked at her for how she treated me. I guess in reality, I don't actually know anything about an interpreter or like what they would expect or have seen, but it does kind of surprise me that somebody who got work as an interpreter on stage would be the one to have this kind of assumption that somebody seems not deaf enough. If anything, I would have loved if OP challenged her further and said, what is the line? How deaf does somebody have to appear before you would accept it? Either Coconut commented, ASL interpreter here, we're not nor should we be the arbiters of who is or isn't deaf, nor how deaf they are. The interpreter was out of line. Had she limited it to, this section is for deaf/hard of hearing attendees, that would have been sufficient. But then she tacked on the assessment of someone else's capacity to hear, someone who's a complete stranger to her. Nope, big mistake. I hope she learned to never, ever do that again. Our next story is that time when I bullied my bully back and he ended up afraid of girls for some time afterwards. So 20-ish years ago, when I was in 6th grade of primary school, I got this annoying guy in my class sitting behind me that year. In prior years, this guy was a bit of a verbal jerk, but I'm pretty sharp and he ended up burned every time in verbal squabbles. Important note, my school was Catholic. We use uniforms, so as a girl I wore a knee-length skirt as part of the uniform. Having that as context, in the beginning of the school year, that jerk decided to escalate his bullying by lifting my skirt while running in the corridor during recess. I complained to my teacher, and my teacher to the principal to the mother of the little idiot, and it supposedly will not happen again, but of course it did. Then I went to my parents, and after they came back for the parents-principal meeting, I learned that the jerk's mother was a total enabler of her son's behavior, telling my parents that basically his precious boy did that to get my attention because he liked me. My father in particular wasn't amused, and he told the lady that if she didn't control her son, there will be consequences. The principal, being a nun, was all about forgiveness bullcrap and praying punishments, but nothing practical. So my dad, after the meeting, taught me how to punch properly, how to hit a person's vulnerable spots, and how to stand for myself if I get hit back, as well as how to break free if someone wants to constrain me. He also told me, dead in the eye, that if the little idiot bothered me again, I should just do whatever I wanted until I felt satisfied, and he will have my back. Next time, in the middle of the school canteen, the jerk not only lifted my skirt, but also slapped my butt really hard. And I saw red. I took the punching posture my dad taught me and hit him straight up in his nose and broke it. But not only that, because of the shock, he fell backwards and I jumped onto him and began to punch him like a sandbag, and when my hands got tired, I stood up and kicked him over and over. The PE teacher had to grab me because I was way out of it. Didn't break anything but his nose, but he ended up black and blue everywhere. My parents got called, his both parents got called this time, and then, as my dad told me, he had my back. He basically told the principal, "Oh, I'll make sure my daughter prays a couple of Holy Marys today so she can reflect on herself." Just as he did for lifting my daughter's skirt and disrespecting her. I'm sure this would make her not do it again, just like it happened for him. That's it. The most funny part was that in that moment, the father of the little idiot was like, "What do you mean my son was lifting up your daughter's skirt?" The enabler mother got pale, and my mom smirked and told the man everything, and he looked death in the eye at his wife like, "We will talk about it at home." The boy apologized to me, first in the principal's office, then in the classroom, but he basically went pale every time I turned back in the classroom for the rest of the trimester. Because he was sitting behind me, he didn't even talk aloud. Not to mention how teased he got because a girl beat him up in public until he cried. He didn't continue there for middle school, but changed to another place. I'm not even saying this in any kind of way that's like anti-religious schooling or anything like that, but you gotta do better if you have a kid that is acting the way that boy did. Like, I know the principal is a nun, but that's not the kind of thing you can just pray away, especially when you clearly know that parent is not going to be a good parent. QC is Cake left a comment saying, in 2nd grade there was a boy that liked to push me off the geodesic dome. It's like monkey bars placed in triangle patterns until it's a dome. Kids climb all over it and swing and jump. It's fun. Until it isn't. This kid wouldn't stop pushing me, and eventually I got fed up. Next time he pushed me off, I grabbed his ankle and took him with me. I'm a girl, so racking myself on a bar or two hurts, but I can walk it off. He, on the other hand, only hit his balls on one bar, full weight. He screamed and cried and threw up. The recess monitor saw what happened and felt it was a natural consequence for shoving kids off there. Never got in trouble, and the little crap never pushed me again. Our next story is, I found out my childhood bully did adult entertainment, and it's so hard to just be quiet about it. In middle school, I had a girl who was passionately obsessed with torturing me, humiliated me in class every chance she got. She would send girls to date me and then laugh about it, saying it was all a joke. She would mock my hair, my height, ethnicity, everything. I have no doubt this contributed to my mild social anxiety. She did so much worse, but I don't want to get into it. I have a side business where we work on erasing or at least minimizing a person's digital footprint. And while working with a client who's attempting to rebrand, I found a VR adult entertainment site that she was a part of. This website is niche, pretty much dead. All the videos have like 500 views. Then I see her, my childhood bully. I honestly couldn't believe it. It looked so weird and a little sad, to be honest. My eyes widened in complete disbelief. It just looked so weird, man. I can't explain the feeling. Nobody knows about this except me, not even her family or close friends, and it's taking every fiber of my being to not DM her family and friends and ruin her life for what she did to me. I haven't done anything and most likely won't because I imagine it would destroy her, but I can't say it's not on my mind almost daily. Edit, to the people DMing me to enjoy myself to my bully, what the freak is wrong with you? Okay, didn't expect the edit there, but anyways, I wonder what her family and friends actually do know. Because just by existing and having heard stories, I've heard stories of people who are in that line of work and their family does know. Or the kind of thing where unfortunately, like a family member or a friend found it. For all OP knows, maybe their friends and family do know what she does. The other kind of question of this is it really worth doing to try to get revenge on a middle school bully? Our next story is Uncle Number 7 shut down Uncle Number 2. Happened at least 8 to 9 years ago. I was in a family gathering. It was one of my cousin's weddings from the father's side. The groom is about a year older than me. And just to put it into context, my dad is number 4 in a sibling of 10 people. We lived in a very conservative Asian country. This is about Uncle Number 2 taking a jab on the groom and other people, including me, because I was unmarried, and Uncle Number 7 shut him up. If I calculated it right, I was about 25 or 26 years old at that time, just finished my master's, and started a job. I was dating my boyfriend, now husband, for 2 or 3 years by then, but not everyone knew that I was in a relationship with him. We have different religions on paper. Sensitive topic here. In the middle of lunch, Uncle Number 2 said something like this about the groom. Finally, he's gotten married. Took him forever. I thought he'll never give Aunt Number 3 a grandchild. Mind you, my cousin was like 26 or 27 years old there. It's a normal age to marry, but the ceremony was in our village in rural regions, so probably 26 is old. No one replied to his comments. He was probably drunk and made more and more comments and was getting louder. Then he pointed at me. You, OP, just keep working in school and working. When will you find a good husband? Is there even any man that would want someone like you? I smile and nod. He kept going on, saying that women should know their place in the household and no matter how educated they are or if they're working, they should still do traditional wife duties and such, and roasting basically any unmarried nieces and nephews, whomever present there or not. I felt like I wanted to snap at him, but he was in the middle of roasting Uncle Number 7's autistic daughter, and Uncle Number 7 snapped. Oh yeah? Should all of them be like niece R who slept with multiple men and doesn't even know who the father was? Uncle Number 2 just shut up really fast. Cousin R is Uncle Number 2's daughter. I felt sorry for the jab at Cousin R, at least she wasn't there in the ceremony to hear it. Cousin R was a professional prostitute. We were actually in the same high school and at the same age, but our social circle was quite different. I didn't spend a lot of time with her, just from time to time she told me her adventures. She got into a hip group of friends in her class, they often went clubbing and eventually got into prostitution to support their lifestyle. At some point, to get more money, they purposefully got pregnant and then extorted money from whomever slept with them around the date of conception, said the money is to abort the pregnancy. It was working quite well and they're able to extract about 10x profit compared to just sleeping with their clients, until my cousin caught feelings and she kept the pregnancy. Around the 5-month mark, my family was finding the supposed father, talked to his family, and they decided to marry them. Conservative country, I guess. But when the baby was born, surprise, surprise, he is clearly from a different ethnicity than the father. The cousin comes clean, and there's at least 10 guys that could be the father, and she just picked out the one that's richer and single. The guy, of course, demanded a DNA test and finally left. My cousin left her baby most of the time with her parents, and from the last I've heard, she said she still wants to move to a big city again because work in a small city is boring. To be fair, I don't know if OP needed to air out all of their cousin's drama here. I mean, I feel like what OP said just about like the line of work that she was in was probably concise enough, and then OP went into an entire spiel releasing all the juicy deets of exactly what went on in the cousin's life story. I mean, I'm not complaining, it was a bit of a crazy story to hear, but OP didn't need to do all that either, just like Uncle Number 2. Our next story is, teacher asks me if I'm R-worded. When I, 24-year-old female, was in 8th grade, 13 years old, I asked my terrible math teacher a simple question about the lesson, and he asked me, "Are you R-worded?" in front of the entire class. I could not believe he actually thought it was appropriate to say that to a student. Little did he know, I actually had to be tested for special ed in elementary school for a processing delay, which was actually just undiagnosed ADHD. I'm medicated now and doing great, but it struck a nerve for me, but mainly for the students who have special needs. I grew up feeling like I was stupid because of my delays, and it enraged me. I'm not proud of how I responded, but I looked him dead in the eyes and said, "Yeah, I lick windows and eat crayons." My teacher got all flustered and tried to play it off as a joke and then asked, "You lick windows?" And then I said something like, "Yep, because clearly you think I'm R-worded." I said it so seriously and did not crack. I remember the class trying to stifle their laughter, and I just glared at my teacher for the remainder of the class. I'm not proud of using that word or using that phrase, and I knew how messed up it was even before I said it. I felt like it would really show him how offensive it was to say that to a student, and it did. Mr. H always answered my questions after that. So this took place about 11 years ago, so around 2015, 2014, something like that. Even at that point in time, it's a pretty crazy thing to imagine a teacher just dropping that word like that. I mean, just like Linus Tech Tip said, people were casually dropping the hard R seemingly all the time in the early 2000s, but by 2014, I feel like it's a pretty shocking thing for a teacher to just say that, like almost a career-ending worthy thing. Underwritress left a comment saying, I have a similar yet completely different story from grade 11. About 30 years ago, although I wasn't so innocent, the teacher was famously unhinged and we already hated each other, and I was being a disrespectful crap. I had come in late, I was whispering with my friend, and then when I missed something and had to ask a question, he had clearly had enough of me and he screamed, "Are you R-worded?" We all gasped and I said, very self-righteously, "You can't call me that, are you on crack?" After which he whipped his chalk at my face, he missed, and screamed at me to get out. The principal came and found me to ask about me asking Mr. Whatever if he was doing drugs, and I laughed in her face, angry, disrespectful little crap, and said, "Oh, if you liked that one, you're going to love what he called me," and I never heard anything back about the incident. Our next story is, fed my cheating boyfriend dog food. This happened when I was in my 20s. I was living with my then boyfriend in an apartment in a small town that smelled like cow farts everywhere you went. He had asked me to move there with him when he got offered a job, and me being a young idiot left my life to go be with him. He moved out there first to get our new living space secured while I closed out my life in San Diego. Apparently, during that time we were apart, he had started a whole freaking affair with his boss. I didn't find out about it until a few months after I had moved in with him. Unfortunately, I had to stay for a few more months while I figured out how to leave. I moved into the spare bedroom. He kept telling me that he wanted to work things out, and at first, I did try, only to find out he was still cheating. Only this time, I didn't tell him I knew. I continued my plans to leave, all while pretending to work things out. One of the things I did for him was making his lunches. He just loved my chili. One day, I made a huge batch, enough to feed him for a whole week. Every lunch I packed for him that week, I included half a can of dog food mixed into his chili. He was so impressed with that batch, he even called me from work to tell me how amazing it was. And yes, I was also realizing that's not exactly a compliment to my cooking. One day, I think it was on the 4th or 5th day of chili, his female cousin was over as I was preparing his lunch. I must have been on autopilot because I was taking the can of dog food and pouring it into his chili, mixing it around as we were chatting until I realized she was staring at what I was doing in horror. I stopped and was like, "Ah, crap." We just kind of stared at each other, and next thing I knew, she was laughing her butt off, asking me what the heck am I feeding her cousin. I told her, "Look, he likes it a lot. I've been feeding it to him all week." She said no way her cousin would eat dog food on purpose, so I had to admit to her he doesn't know, but he keeps telling me it's my best batch ever. I also explained to her why I started doing it, that he had been cheating on me all while telling me he wanted a life with me and got me to uproot my life for him. And she got on my team, even participated in heating it up for the thermos and seasoned it with the extra tapatio sauce. She was actually the one to put that extra dollop of dog food into the mix, too. Ex-boyfriend did find out shortly after, because his cousin couldn't keep a secret for crap, and she thought it was so funny she had to tell him. But to this day, he thinks I only fed it to him the one time she witnessed it. He doesn't know he had been eating it all week. So, the first thing I'd like to ask the good people listening to this right now that maybe also have dogs, or maybe even cats, has anyone else ever gotten like a food item or like a treat for those dogs and you looked at it and you're like, it doesn't actually look that bad, like I would never eat it, but some of the things I've bought my dog, they look like straight up like good looking jerky. Again, I would never eat it, but considering the fact that it is like at least human grade food, like in theory if you ate it, it shouldn't get you sick. Combined with this boyfriend's raving reviews, it's like, well, if the zombie apocalypse came along and that's all there was, maybe it wouldn't be so bad, I don't know. Gifted Garden Snail left a comment saying, the mental image of you just casually putting dog food in your boyfriend's lunch while chatting away is absolute gold. Our next story is Karen on a bus stop. Well, I'll try to be quick about it. I was on the bus, sitting on a bench, legs crossed but in like the man way, ankle on my other thigh, if you know what I mean. This older lady approached me and asked me if she can sit. Of course she could. The bench was half empty. I could already tell she was judging me hard. She gave me dirty looks and she was shaking her head in disapproval when she sat down. She was mumbling something, so I very kindly asked her if there is something that's bothering her. She had a problem with the way I sit, that it's inappropriate and rude. Mind you, I wasn't bothering anybody. I didn't touch her with my shoe or anything, which I told her as well. She continued being a pain in my butt, so I, again, in a very gentle parenting way, told her, you know, I have a cyst on my ovary. The reason I sit this way is because it hurts me if I sit any other way. And if I did, I'm risking that the cyst will rupture and I'll have to go to the hospital immediately. Don't judge someone so quickly. She was speechless. She was still shaking her head, but she couldn't look me in the eye and just grinded her teeth while saying, fine. After I got up, I was pretending I limp. Ain't gonna lie, I am a bit petty. I have an actual cyst on my ovary. It's shrinking now, but it was 7 centimeters at that time. But I was definitely not in serious danger, and I was just sitting that way because it's just comfortable for me. Just wanted to teach her a lesson. This Karen is one of those people that are just looking for something to complain about and somebody to be the scapegoat and target of their soul-sucking, energy-leeching. The only reason you would complain about the way OP is sitting is if there's like 12 people and they're trying to all clamor for that seat. But the bench was half empty. What did Karen want to do? Lay down and take a nap? Our next story is, I got traumatized back. This is a story of how I, rightfully so, got traumatized back. I was about 14 or 15. This happened on one of my dad's legendary birthday parties. They took days. His friends even called it my dad's name festival. I basically worked there as a waitress, dishwasher, serving food, everything that needed to be done. When the people were successfully drunk and not needing so much help, I would have fun and talk to my dad's friends. One of them was this lady, approximately in her 30s. She had a giant scar on the back of her forearm, from her wrist all the way up to her elbow. I asked her what happened to her. She chuckled with this bitter expression and answered that she always tells people that she used to work in a circus and a tiger did that. I was being a jerk and kept pushing, asking, "No, really, what happened?" Then she dropped the bomb. One of my stepfathers grabbed me and threw me through a glass door. I stammered and apologized. Lesson learned. Minflick left a comment saying, "At the age of 10, I ran through a pre-safety glass sliding door at high speed. I exploded that thing. It was spotlessly clean and invisible, and we were playing tag. I had slightly roughened skin on my forehead, which was what hit the glass first. I had hundreds of tiny glass slivers all along my arms and legs, and when I landed on the glass out on the patio and ended up with 2 small pieces in the palm of my hand. Got them out, had a small scar at the incision site for decades, until the scar for carpal tunnel release took its place. Messy day." Our next story is failed robbery attempt? So, I, 20-year-old female, manage at a smaller restaurant chain, and over the past weekend we got super busy unexpectedly, but we worked our way through it. During this specific rush, I'm running all over the place, managing while also hosting, helping where I can, and eventually we slow down some. At this point, I'm standing at the host stand when a DoorDash approaches me about an item they're still waiting on, and I firstly apologize to them about the wait and explain that we ran out of bread for the rest of the night. We make it fresh every morning, so I would refund that back to the customer and to let me know if there was anything else I could do and to have a great night. He lingers around the host stand and expresses his unhappiness and then asks which door he needs to exit out of. We only have 2 options, so I told him either is fine. This is a big detail to me because dude was just acting weird. This is where it gets good. He walks away from the host stand towards the front door, but decides to grab a table caddy, this Halloween lantern decoration, and this big standing 3x4 foot wooden welcome in sign, and bolts out the door down the sidewalk with it all. He took the wrong route and did it on the wrong shift though, because I don't play. I did indeed run to our employee-only side door and caught him right at the perfect time to run up right behind him and get a grip on our wooden sign, and we play tug of war for a second, but then I just ripped it out of his grip. I had a full set of nails and did not break one. Guess what he says after I get the sign back? I didn't have good enough service. My boy, you are the dasher, not the customer, so why are you so mad and stealing my decorations? In all seriousness, I know I shouldn't have run after him, but adrenaline hit me and I literally ran with it. He was also like super skinny, so I wasn't that worried. Currently waiting for a call from the cops so I can verbally tell him he has trespassed from our store. I almost wonder if this guy wasn't a dasher and was just lying, hoping that they could steal some free food or something. I mean, how else do you explain them acting the way they did and running out of there, grabbing a whole bunch of stuff for no reason? I think it's either that he's lying, or that there's a DoorDasher that is on bath salts or something. 55alive5 left a comment saying, he took the term dasher to heart. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another traumatizing revenge story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.